What was the weirdest decision of your life that haunts you to this day? I forced my husband at gunpoint to sign divorce papers. To begin with, I was a small-town girl brought up in a conservative family. I completed my graduation in engineering but didn't go for campus placement because my parents felt that would be an obstacle to getting me married to a traditional and decent man. So despite their protesting, I gave up on the emotional trauma given to me by my parents and enrolled myself in an engineering master's course. Mind you, I had literally tried everything. Pleaded, begged, and cried to let me continue my studies with the promise that I would marry the person of their choice without any demands and even leave my studies if the groom's family didn't consider it appropriate. I had no other choice. My desire to study and complete post-graduation was making me do anything and everything. By God's grace, I could complete my post-graduation and even start teaching as an assistant professor in a private college while my elder sister and brother got married. I still remember it was the month of July, 5 years back, when my mother finally bought the unfortunate and wretched news of finding a suitable match for me. The guy was a manager in a steel factory. Moreover, the factory was owned by his family. I wasn't allowed to talk to him. According to my parents, they couldn't find someone better for me. I wish they could judge better. I got married in a traditional style. I had read about finding love or at least friendship after marriage, but I missed the initial gestures of both from my husband's side. I thought lovemaking would be when both of us were comfortable, but the first night itself I was forced to have intercourse. When I tried to show discomfort, he bluntly said that it was my virtue as a wife to satisfy his intimate needs. I had to accept it as destiny. The next morning I woke up still hopeful of a happy married life, trying to convince myself it was the initial phase and I would soon be comfortable and happy. The first 3 months of marriage were weird. He would use me like an intimate object at night but did not even talk to me for any other reason except to do odd chores for him. Whenever I would try to initiate a conversation, he would ignore me and simply move to the other room. Although my mother-in-law visited us twice a month, she understood that everything wasn't right. Her loving attitude made me confess to her how my efforts in trying to know him more went in vain. She requested me not to discuss it with my family as it would give them unnecessary tension and told me that it was normal at the beginning of arranged marriages. I was an optimist, and despite him going on 2 trips with his friends but not taking me on a honeymoon, I thought maybe he would open up in a few months. He would be aggressive during intimacy, although I did show discomfort, but the day I protested, I was abused verbally. He cleared to me that all he wanted from me was intimacy, and when I raised the issue of opening up and being friends, he simply told me about his philosophy for his wife. Wives are meant to do household chores and satisfy husbands without expecting anything in return. I was shocked out of my wits. I tried to explain to him how we could lead a happy life by being more open to each other. But he rather told me not to try to interfere in his life. Days went by. Months too. I was sad and depressed but still hoped that someday he would pay attention to my emotional needs. He didn't allow me to work, to meet my friends, let alone make friends, and the worst was locking me inside the flat for a week when he would go with his friends for trips. Once when I tried to request him not to lock me up, he called me a characterless girl who wanted to meet men in the absence of her husband. He would not let me meet my own family, saying my absence disturbs his schedule. Tired of all this, I tried to ask for help from my mother, but alas, she only said one thing: after marriage a girl must abide by her husband's needs and desires. I knew nothing that could make the situation better, but all I wanted was this marriage should work. Once, one of my school friends found my husband with someone else at a party who he said was his wife. My friend forwarded me the picture. I was so scared, I just prayed to the Lord that this must not be his other wife. By this, you can realize how much I wanted this marriage hoax to work, because I knew I would be held as the culprit by everyone if it didn't. The night that followed showed me the true colors of my husband. On showing him the photo and asking, he replied by hitting me and warning me never to spy on him. This incident made me want to run away, but all I could do was to cry. When I finally tried to talk to my elder sister, she was concerned about me but did inform me how I would be disowned by my own family after separating from this man just to prevent the dishonor I would bring to the family. And guess what? Expect worse. I was caught by my husband talking about how I was physically abused after marriage, to my sister. And this time when he tried to beat me, I protested. As a result, he broke my phone, which is my only link with the outside world, and pushed me hard, just to make me bang my head on the table, the severity of which made me unconscious. He did have enough brain cells to know he should take me to the hospital though. I got stitches, and MRI report showed clots on the right side of my head. Out of human nature, I thought maybe now was the time he would start caring for me. But oh, was I wrong. He simply told me, "See, I don't want to hit you. But if you don't obey, this is what you will get. All I want from you is to be like the way I want. And we will have a nice life." This was indeed the first time I lost all hope, and considering this as my fate, started behaving accordingly. So the 9th month of my marriage went smoothly. Taking advantage of his good mood one night, while he was busy satisfying himself with my body, I requested him to allow me to work as a professor. To make my idea more lucrative to him, I told him that this could reduce the expenditure he has to do on my basic needs and he could go on foreign trips with his friends. This sounded good to him. And fortunately, in a month's time full of interviews and written tests, I started teaching in an institute. This was my escape from the harsh reality of my married life, where I was just used as a maid and an intimate object. In 5 months' time, I started getting the emotional affection and companionship I expected from my husband from the head of my department. I found a friend who I could trust, talk to, and expect from. After a month more, I started trusting him more, and finally, he became the first person to know in detail what I had gone through in nearly a year and more of marriage. I would often ask him what I should do to make my husband more affectionate to me, and one day we finally concluded that a baby might change everything. I just didn't mention that once before this I had tried to discuss this matter with my husband, to which he replied he was already burdened by me, so he doesn't want a baby. And one fine day I decided to try my luck, and guess what, I got pregnant. I kept this news from my husband till 8 weeks, but he came to know this. And in rage of betraying him as he didn't want a baby, he hit me again, despite pleading that it was his own child. And sadly I had a miscarriage. This was basically the first time. The pain and agony of losing my first baby made me determined to get out of this hell. I just took a week's leave from work. It was during this time that my absence for so long made my colleague/new best friend realize his love for me. Out of care for me and knowing how my husband was, Flynn reached my house and was in utter disbelief to see me in this pathetic state. I had wounds all over, my body was weak and my eyes were swollen. For the first time in a year and a half, I saw my pain in someone else's eyes. He hugged me for the first time, confessed his love for me, and promised to get me out of this place at any cost. What followed for the next 3 months was shifting to Flynn's home and being lovingly accepted by his mother, being disowned by my family, getting abused by my husband on being a whore, and frequent visits to the police station, lawyers, and court. But believe me, at this time of turmoil I was happy, at peace, and felt as if something beautiful was to happen. For the first time in nearly 2 years. It was during this time that my husband started filing false cases against me, like harassing his old parents, having extramarital affairs, and being a worker of an intimate gang. Flynn and I found our law system incapable of differentiating between wrong and right, so we made up a plan. He was given a large amount of ancestral property by his parents. As per the plan, we kidnapped him and made him sign divorce papers at gunpoint. We used the property papers as bait to make him accept all his deeds. Domestic violence and intimate abuse, and also filing false cases against me in court. Finally, the paradise of my life began. I married Flynn, and we moved along with his mother to another city. We started working in a new institute again. It has been 3 years and life has been simply bliss. God has blessed me with a son who is going to turn 2 this June. Maybe God is paying me back for all the pains I suffered, in the form of a beautiful life unfolding every day. Time has indeed healed all my wounds. I was and will always be grateful to Flynn for being a guardian angel and the biggest blessing in disguise. To all those who survived reading my whole life up until now, believe me, life is beautiful. However hard times may be, they will pass and most probably end to mark the beginning of the spring of your life.